Welcome to the Love Yourself Healthy podcast. I am Melanie Lillis. I'm an eating psychology coach, nutritional therapist, and I have my Bachelor of Physical and Health Education. Throughout this podcast, we are going to be diving into the realm of eating psychology, body image, self-love, and creating a healthy and happy mind. I cannot wait to share my knowledge with you in hope that it's going to positively influence your life. Hello, wonderful people, and welcome back to the podcast. I hope you've been having a wonderful week so far. If you were wondering, which I'm sure you're not, I am not sick anymore. I was sick for my last interview podcast, and just letting you know I'm good, in case you were wondering. Anyway, today's podcast is another interview podcast with Rachael Muldoon, and she is amazing. I actually met Rachael when I started doing boot camps, and yeah, I just loved her. She was an amazing trainer. She used to live in Cronulla, and now she's down in Melbourne. And Rachael is a health and fitness coach and a personal trainer. And throughout the interview, we talk all things training, nutrition, gut health, mindset, as well as her incredible program that she has online at the moment, which is awesome. If you want to know any of her details, I'm going to pop them down in the show notes so you can contact Rachael and let her know that you listen to the podcast. Anyway, before I move on to the interview, let me just share my listener review. And it is from a girl named Shannon. And she said, "Hi, I just stumbled across your podcast on Spotify and I love them already. I felt a bit down, but you were giving me back some confidence. Thank you for that and keep it up. Big love all the way from the Netherlands." Now, thank you, Shannon. That is so cool. I can't believe that my podcasts are reaching people in different countries. That is actually a spin out. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'd love for you guys to send me through any feedback about my podcast. So just head to Bear Brave, or you can just email me at hello@bearbrave.com. I hope you enjoy this interview as much as I enjoyed creating it. Hi, Rachael. Welcome to the Love Yourself Healthy podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Hi.
It's
Thank
nice to
you.
have
Thanks for
you.
having me.
Yeah, no worries. So we're going to start this interview with a really quick this or that type questions. It's just a little bit of an icebreaker. So are you ready?
Cool. I'm ready.
Okay. Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Cardio or weights?
Weights.
Intuitive eating or meal plan?
Meal plan.
Okay. Winter or summer?
Summer.
And dressing up or just wearing active wear?
Active wear.
Hey, you know what? Actually, the other day I was wearing active wear. Where was I? I can't remember what I was doing, but last week I was in Melbourne actually, and I was wearing normal clothes the whole day, and I was so uncomfortable because I live in active wear for my job and just in life. I was like, what is this jean situation going on, and like tops, and it was like super uncomfortable. So anyway, I live in my
Totally. Every now and again I try and go, I'm going to catch up with a friend and I'm going to grab a coffee and I'm going to dress nice and I'm going to dress like I should dress to go to coffee. And I put my jeans on. I'm like, this is super uncomfortable. And I literally sort of had to tidy up some clothes the other day, and I found a pair of jeans that I'm like, I should wear those. And I put them on and I'm like, they don't fit. My caboose is just, filling that out. And I just keep growing and I'm like, it's not a bad thing. It's just like, there's just no point trying to wear these now. They're so uncomfortable and I've just changed. So I've just got to let it go.
Yeah. And I think like the more you live in active wear, like it is so comfortable that, jeans is normally comfortable, but nowadays it's like, no. And it's so acceptable to wear active wear. So I'm totally fine with this.
Yep. Same. It's a bit of a fashion thing now. So that's good for me.
I love the trend. All right. So before we get into all the amazing things that you're doing at the moment and everything that you are, I want to dive all the way back into your childhood and get to know what was childhood like for young little Rachael. What was school like? Were you active? What did you want to do career-wise and all of that?
I think when I was really young, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But as I got a bit older and got into high school, I definitely remember wanting to do something in the health and fitness space. And I used to dance. So dancing was, one of the things that I really wanted to do when I was that age. I quickly discovered that maybe I wasn't the right kind of build for that. And I remember going to a summer camp for classical ballet at the Australian ballet here in Melbourne one time. My mum took me down for like a 2-week summer camp. And I just felt so inadequate and was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to be a classical dancer because they're so, they literally are measuring the length of your neck and your shoulder width and your hips and your height. And they just measure everything physically. They measure all your flexibility. And there was some limitations I had. So I was like, well, there goes that dream. So I think just like other than that, not much. Like that was kind of my only thing. And I just sort of moseyed on through, and I ended up working in childcare for 6 years and then health and fitness.
Amazing. Yeah, actually my guest last week, Sarah Holloway, she was in the Australian ballet and she was saying the same thing, but because she is Asian, she's got the natural, really slim, straight up and down kind of figure. So she said it was never really that much of an issue for her. But yeah, it's so hard. Even if you are the most talented, sometimes if you don't have that right body shape that you're looking for, they don't even look at you, which is
exactly
sad, actually. It's quite sad.
It is sad, but at the same time, I was like, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to like not let that affect me and do something that will fit. Don't spend too much time worrying about it. I just moved on pretty quick.
Yeah, that's it. Totally. What about food and health? Were you conscious of what you were eating? What was your household like in terms of meals? I know obviously it would be predominantly what your parents were feeding you, but yeah, what was it like growing up health-wise?
I've always had a very healthy family, I guess. We always ate meat and 3 veg. And I think primary school was very much, you know, typical sandwiches for lunch and things like that. But we always ate fruit and yogurt and just generally healthy stuff. We had some bits and pieces in the cupboard, like Milo or some Nutella occasionally. And I remember coming home after school and having a bit of this and a bit of that and some orange juice. But on the whole, pretty healthy. My mum has always, I think, struggled with her weight and therefore, in a way, maybe overcompensated for us, which is a great thing, me and my brother. She was always really careful with what she would say around us about body image, and she never tried to change herself. And I think she always ate really well. So I think a lot of that sort of diet culture and maybe some of her issues didn't really rub off on us. So I think that's a good thing in terms of food, because I know that a lot of the time your parents can really rub negatively on you. But we were very healthy growing up, and getting into high school, that sort of continued through, and we had very balanced kind of life. But I did struggle with, I wouldn't say an eating disorder, but I was sort of delving into those things, mainly because, you know, being a dancer and, you know, the pressures of high school and the typical beauty culture, I guess, encouraged me to push that a little bit. And I dieted when I was in high school, was eating quite less, but I never kind of fully stopped eating or anything like that. But I do remember going through a phase of like looking for diet pills and trying to make myself vomit and things like that. I got over that very quickly as well, but there was definitely an element of that growing up for sure.
Yeah. And what sports were you mainly doing? You said dancing. Were there any other sports that were your main focus, or was it just predominantly dance?
Mostly dance. I wasn't really into anything else. Neither was my brother. I think he was encouraged to do different things to me, and he was into motorbike riding and things like that. So a lot of attention was spent there, a lot of time, a lot of money with my family. So most of the weekends would be spent chasing him around at different events and things like that. So dance was my main outlet, and I didn't really have much else. And, you know, I got my time to do my things as well, but I think that sort of restricted me from exploring other areas, having a brother doing the motorbike racing. So
I actually grew up the same. My dad raced motocross and my brothers were all into motocross. And so, a lot of money was put into those bikes, let me tell you. And
Absolutely.
3 times our bikes got stolen. So more money was put back into the bikes. So I was just on the side doing my gymnastics stuff. So you spoke about diving in a little bit into not so much an eating disorder, but I guess maybe a bit of disordered eating. Was that brought on by dance, the pressures of body image, or was it more a culture, like society thing? Were girls around you doing it? How did you dip into those?
I can't remember exactly. I just remember a little bit of dance. I think, you know, a lot of ballerinas are portrayed. That's what they do in movies and things like that. I mean, that might be where I got the idea from. But I think just growing up and sort of realizing your sexuality and, you know, your body changes at that time. You start to get boobs and a booty, and then people start making comments towards you about what you look like. And I think I've always been a bit of a high achiever. So I kind of always maybe thought I wanted to be better than the rest, you know, better than the other girls at school. And that was one way of doing it. obviously not a healthy or a productive way. But I think maybe that's where my head was at. I can't really fully remember. I just remember going through that phase. Yeah, maybe a little bit of attention seeking as well at the time. And again, it's not a negative, it is a negative thing, a negative way of getting that attention. Maybe that was just something that was going through my head at the time. I can't really remember, to be honest. Yeah, probably a few of those things.
Did that kind of just stop, or is that stuck with you a little bit? Like, we'll talk soon about all your like bikini kind of competitions and as a PT and everything that you're doing, but in terms of that kind of mindset of body image and pressures and all of that, has that stuck a little bit, or have you navigated that in a more healthy way?
I think I've definitely changed and navigated that in a healthy way. I think there was a very short phase in my life when I was, a teenager. I'm talking like 15, 16 maybe.
Yeah.
And I think I've always prided myself on my appearance. And I think as a female, when you get that kind of attention, it's pretty easy. And it's just something that you go through. I think in my life now, where I'm at and where I've been for quite some years now, despite bodybuilding and all of that, my confidence just keeps growing, and I don't ever do anything to damage my body. It's honestly coming from a place of love and appreciation for myself and my body now, and it has for a long time. And I don't even think when I was bodybuilding and things like that I ever hated on my body. Obviously, you're trying to achieve a different state and you do go through some up and downs, but I heard some really horrible stories of what some other women were going through, and I was like, that's just not me. I don't feel that way. And nor do I want to, and I'm never going to give that any weight. I'm never going to beat myself up over this. I'm never going to damage my body doing this, and I didn't. I've never had weight issues where, people talk about rebounding and this depression that they suffer, and I'm like, that's just not happening to me. And I don't know why. I think everyone's just so different, but I never really experienced a really bad negative side to it.
That's awesome. And that might be a testament to your knowledge and the way that you view kind of your health, because I know that you are such a healthy person and you care about your body, and obviously appearance is a big thing, but that might be a testament to the education that you've kind of given yourself and made sure that you always do it in the right ways. So speaking about body image, you did compete in bikini competitions? Is that what they're called?
Yeah. So like the bikini division. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, if anyone has seen Rachel, she's got the best body in the world. Like, you're beautiful now, you were beautiful when you're competing, you were beautiful before. Your body is just amazing, really nice shape.
Oh, thank you.
And I don't ever, I guess, take someone on just how they look, but let's just talk about obviously body for a second. And in those competitions, what was that whole process like? I mean, it would have been a lot of training, a lot of meal prepping and calorie or macro counting. What was that journey like?
Yeah, in the beginning, I just started training and I was just really enjoying it. And I had some friends who were like, hey, why don't you give this a go? And I was like, yeah, you know what? Now that I'm not dancing and doing other sort of things and getting on stage, was always a bit of fun. And I love doing makeup and hair and that kind of stuff. So that's what sort of, I guess, intrigued me, is that it was a bit of a, it sufficed for the being on stage with dancing. It was still sort of a performing art to me. So yeah, so I think that's sort of what got me there. In terms of the journey and preparation, at first I started on my own, but then I got help with a guy named Mike, who is absolutely awesome. And he just put me on a diet and was like, right, do this and keep training. And that's just what I did. And the diet was tough. It was quite challenging to sort of stick to the same things every day and be quite restrictive. And it's all good for a little while, but after a long time, like a few months, it does become a little bit tedious and probably a little unhealthy because you're not getting a full range of foods. So you are restricting yourself. And I think I was just naturally good at it. I had the right physique shape to begin with, and I've really changed a lot since then. But in terms of my physique, it was in the right place for what I was doing. And I started winning competitions and it became quite easy. I think now the standard has changed a lot, and that's why I don't really compete now, because back then it was easy. It was, it was the right thing for me. But now I've sort of shied away from it, mainly because there is such a high expectation, a high standard now. And that's awesome. And kudos to the girls who can do it. But I feel like I've done my bit. I'm not really prepared to absolutely slaughter myself in the process. I've got other life to do. So the process in the beginning was easy. I find it's gotten harder over the years for sure.
It's almost like you are pretty much an elite athlete, I guess, with all the training. How many days did you have to train for this? And was it all cardio or weights, or what was the split like?
I think for me, it's always weights because I just have that ectomorphic body type where I'm very petite and lean, and I was always quite small, and it's always been a struggle. Even today, my focus in my training is to gain size, and strength. So
Yeah.
it was always weights, and I did a little bit of cardio. I probably trained minimum 5 days a week, and maybe I'd go for like some walks or easier things on the weekends. But yeah, I trained pretty consistently. I always have, and I've never sort of had more than 3 or 4 weeks off at a time at any given period, really, because it really is a part of my life. So whether I was competing or not, 5 days a week wasn't, extreme for me, I guess.
And was it a really set kind of meal plan that you had to follow really regimentally, like every single day, or was there a cheat day or cheat meal or anything like that throughout that journey?
Yeah, there was definitely a very strict meal plan. However, being ectomorphic, I could get away with a little bit here and there. And yeah, like I'd have a cheat meal at least once a week.
Yeah.
That's when I guess I began. But when I kind of became a bit more experienced, and I'd had already previously tried flexible dieting. And so I thought, you know what, can I go back to that? But can I use use the right amount of calories? But can I go back to, finding the foods that I want to eat? And my coach was like, yeah, go for it. And so the first kind of stint was quite restricted. It was quite boring. It was just the same thing. However, that made it easy. I shouldn't have to think. You just get it done each week. But as I got a bit more experience, I decided to take the nutrition into my own hands. And yeah, I was able to have a bit more flexibility, which meant I could have something little, a bit of chocolate or a bit of ice cream here and there. And it wasn't like, you just have one cheat meal. You had a bit more flexibility, which I think made the journey even more enjoyable as well.
Now, I know that in terms of like macronutrient deficiencies or playing around with your macros, like low carbs or low fats or high protein, whatever it is, that can cause a lot of cravings, especially if you are really low in a main macronutrient. Were you having any major cravings for any foods? And if you were, what were you doing to help that?
I don't remember having any major cravings. I think because I was always on a high carb diet, again, being a ectomorph, you can tolerate more carbohydrates and sometimes more calories. So that was all good for me. I think I just missed certain things that are just generally enjoyable, like a bite of chocolate or just something sweet. I wasn't a massive fan of sweets back then, so that wasn't a massive issue, but you just missed, being able to have something here and there, and only because it was taken away. So that's what I found with flexible dieting. When you're able to have things, it became less intriguing to be like, oh, could I eat that? I was like, yeah, I could eat that if I wanted to. Is that the good choice? No. So let's just leave that. Let's maybe have this instead. That's what I'm going to, compensate with.
Yeah.
So yeah, you do have times where it's tougher than usual, and being female around your period, or just times when you're stressed or frustrated. Yeah, of course. But I found throughout that journey it was never anything major. Always found it quite easy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. And then what about these days? Are you still following along this kind of flexible diet plan? Are you more intuitively eating? How is the process for you now? And also in that, what is your training like? Is it still kind of around the same, or have you brought it down a bit?
I probably train less now because I'm a little bit more aware of that. I don't need to train every day to be able to get stronger. So I understand that now, that rest is important, and spacing out your workouts definitely helps. In terms of food now, I don't know if I'd call it intuitively eating. I feel like I just know the right portions because I've done it for so long. I don't need to weigh my food. And with intuitive eating, and maybe this is something that you know more about than what I would necessarily talk about, but in my experience, sometimes with intuitive eating, people want to eat that way. They want to be like, I just eat intuitively. I eat what I feel. And it's like, well, is that great for you? Because you probably don't have the skills, one, around knowing the food, two, around knowing yourself and your body to be able to really do that well. And you might need some coaching around that. And I don't think that it's necessarily intuitive eating is bad. Just from my experience, a lot of people want to do that, and they're like, oh, I just crave chocolate all the time and I can't stop eating. And it's like, well, maybe you need to just stop doing what you're doing and try something completely different. And then, so maybe I am intuitively eating now. I don't, I find it quite easy. I have some go-to foods. I have some go-to meals, and I just find that really easy. And I eat different things. Like I ate almost an entire pizza last night after my workout, and I really enjoyed that. And then, but then we'll eat healthy most of the time. So I don't really ever have any negative feelings about that. And my weight and my body seems to say where I want it to. I haven't really pushed it to the point where I wanted to get lean or anything, just because I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
I don't really have a need for it.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, I mean, I'm probably maybe half and half, somewhere in between intuitively eating and I don't necessarily put everything into my macronutrient calculator or anything like that. I definitely don't do that. But I feel like I just know the foods that I want to go to, and I take supplements regularly. I eat, high quality foods. I eat berries. I eat vegetables, dark leafy greens, I eat all that kind of stuff. I don't regularly eat things like bread and processed foods. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's somewhere in between that. I don't know really, because it's just what I do now.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point that you brought up about the intuitive eating. If you don't have the knowledge, or if you haven't educated yourself, one, on what a macronutrient is and how important it is to your body, what high nutrient foods are and how important these are to your body. And also if you are training really intensely, the different things that you need, or if you're vegan, the supplements that you might be needing to take and the foods that you really need to make sure you're getting. And I think once you can educate yourself, then you can, as you said, become a little bit more intuitive. But there are those people out there who want to be intuitive, but they definitely need a little bit of coaching. So I love that you brought that up. All right. Well, what about in terms of headspace and self-love practices? Because a lot of what I do is educating people around, checking in with their bodies, listening to what their body is asking from them, and, creating a really nice headspace and self-talk and body image. Do you have any particular, mindset or self-love practices that you do to help you stay focused or stay positive or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm probably someone who mainly turns to that when things get a little bit more difficult, especially when it comes to anxiety and stress. So if I'm stressed about something in my business, that's when I start to get a little bit, it's not necessarily, I think my issues don't necessarily relate to my body. It relates just to me as a general person. So I'll catch myself being like, you're never going to get anywhere. You're no good. And like people will say to you, oh, like, you're so amazing. You do so many things. And like my boyfriend said to me last night, oh, I was chatting to this person. They said, you're such a boss. And I was like, oh, really? Like, okay. People think this of me because, it's the same with any social media. You put things out there and people see X, Y, Z or what you're doing. And that's awesome. Like, I'm definitely doing those things. In no way is that a lie, but you often feel in your own world that you're not good enough and that, you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, where my issues come from. It's not necessarily like I need to look in the mirror and be like, you know what, you're beautiful, you're amazing. I genuinely believe those things about myself, but it does take practice in other areas for me to be like, it's okay. It's okay to not be motivated. It's okay to, slow down or struggle or be anxious. It's okay for all these things to happen and just keep pushing forward. And when those things come up for me, I generally try and get out for a walk. That's probably one of my biggest things. And I love spending time with my dog, and is probably one of the biggest reasons that I got him. One, because I wanted to care for an animal and rescue an animal. But secondly, for my own mentality, I was like, I want to be able to get out every day and have a purpose and have another reason other than just me all the time. I need to get myself out of my head and give something to somebody else and something else. And doing that every day is what clears me and gives me a lot of good feelings, good vibes for the day. So try and get a walk in early. And then other things that I do, I've recently been pretty big on stretching because I'm sitting down a lot now, whereas I didn't used to work as a personal trainer. Now working from home, you're spending a lot more time at your desk. So I'm spending a lot more time stretching morning and night if I can, which helps my headspace as well, because you feel good. You know that you're doing something good for your body. And exercise is obviously a good one, going to the gym. Sometimes I don't want to go to the gym, but I know if I just go, I'm going to feel so much better about myself. Because motivation for someone like me isn't just that easy either. Like people think, oh yeah, it must be so easy for you. It's not. It's definitely not. So don't think that, you see gym junkies online or whatever, that it's always that easy. So yeah, I think when things get tough, stretching, going for walks, trying to keep going to the gym. And I do meditate. I'm not great at it. I try, and I'm trying harder and harder every day. But I definitely see everyone I speak to, everyone I talk to, anyone who's successful, especially a lot of podcasts I listen to and books I read, everyone's like, meditate.
Yeah.
So there's got to be something to it. I'm like, I've got to do this because, I've just got to do it. So
Yeah.
I do try.
Yeah, that's good. I think meditation is so hard, especially, I don't know if you're like me, but I go 100 miles an hour. It's really hard to kind of just switch your brain off, especially have so many tabs open in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a practice. I think it's something that you just got to do a little bit more of. But I do agree with everything you said, especially about putting so much pressure on ourselves, and whether that is just coming internally or also externally, society pressures and all of that. And in particular, social media that you brought up, you've got a pretty nice following going on in social media. Do you find much pressure to uphold a certain image, or I guess a vibe about your page or anything like that through social media?
Yeah, I think the biggest pressure for me is just to actually post. I'm kind of getting over the fact that I don't have abs all year round. I'm not perfect, and that's totally fine. I'm still fit and healthy, and I think people still appreciate that. And it shows that you don't need to be shredded to be healthy. I think that's a really positive thing to be putting out there. However, just the actual act of posting all the time is a pressure for me. So I do feel that pressure. And I feel like if I'm not posting, then I'm not doing good enough, or I'm not going to be able to grow my business to where I want it to go. And, there's that pressure. It's not necessarily like, oh, I need to look a certain way so I can post an Instagram photo. It's just like, well, I should be posting, and what the hell do I post? Because no one really cares about this stuff. It's boring. It's me and my dog. That's real life, right? I want to be able to post real shit. I'm not just going to post pictures for the sake of it. I want to post something when it's something that I genuinely have to say, something that's positive, something that's good for the world, something that's encouraging somebody else to be positive and love themselves. So I'm not just posting for the sake of it. I want to post genuinely, but I feel like, to grow and maintain social media, you need to be doing that all the time. So I feel that it's quite a big pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Even with my new brand, Bear Brave, it's, trying to be an up and coming Instagram is so hard these days. And I have to post at least 3 times a day, and then on my Instagram stories to actually have any kind of a consistency going on. And it's like, that takes up a lot of time. I just can't even imagine how much more time you would have to put into it if you actually had a massive kind of following. But do you get nice comments? What are the people like that come to your page? Do you ever get any trolls or anything like that?
I rarely get trolls. I think I maybe had a few when I was younger and started the whole thing, and I was just like, whatever. Because I think I very quickly realized that people are just negative. They're scared. They're feeling inadequate. And I don't buy into any of that crap. I don't respond. I never have. And I remember one time when I was just starting out, and someone had posted something like, on a picture, ew, she has a weird belly button.
Out of everything.
Yeah, and I was just like, wow. I was like, she had to look at that picture so carefully and just draw on something that maybe she thought she could to bring me down. And I was like, you know what? You are making that shit up. There's nothing wrong with my belly button. Everybody has a different belly button. There is no right or wrong to that. So just whatever. I just deleted the comment, obviously. And what I've also learned is that no matter what you look like, especially as a female, people are always going to criticize you. You're either too fit, too strong, too skinny, too fat, too this, too that. It doesn't matter. I have heard it all. I'm, even dating, in the dating world for me, I'll have a picture on, my Tinder profile or something like that, and someone has gone, they'd met up with me or whatever, and they're like, oh, I thought you were going to be really big in your, when I met you from your, and I'm like, shut up, dude. So people are kind of like, oh, I thought you'd be really bulky and I wouldn't be attracted to you. And I'm like, I couldn't give a F, because, that's just who I am. And you're being too picky. And I don't like this whole idea of you see all this stuff about, oh, I only like guys who are this tall, and I only like short women. It's like, it's just like racism, just stop. It's okay to have your preferences, but just stop commenting on what people look like, and stop
100%.
putting it out there, and just get over it, get past it, stop criticizing, stop talking about it, because shit will get so much better if we just focus on what people are doing and who they are and what they're about, as opposed to just what they look like.
100%. And I think, there's so much to be said about just appreciating all types of body sizes and all types of people and all types of personalities. And we really need to be a lot more acceptable of that. And I love that I wouldn't really call it so much a trend, but, people who have a big social media following now are showing all angles of themselves when they're feeling bloated, or if they're sitting down in the rolls. And I think that's really nice. They're kind of trying to remove that glossy surface that there is on Instagram with all the photoshopping and all of that kind of stuff. And I really appreciate that and enjoy that, because yeah, everyone in real life is going to look probably a little bit different than that photo that they posted. And we're always going to pick the nicest photo of us, you know, to upload. And I love the fact that out of your photo, she picked the belly button, because clearly there was nothing else in your photo to pick apart.
Yeah, but people do that. They look for the negative to make themselves feel better. But I can honestly say it doesn't help anyone. And if you want to feel better about yourself, then start focusing on the positive parts of you. And it doesn't have to be physical. And I think because we place so much, I guess, worth still on females' appearance, and people act like that's not a thing anymore, but it is, right? You hear it every day.
Yep.
And you see it everywhere in every social media. So one, we need to just stop doing that. We need to stop, I think, giving women so much for what they look like, and we need to stop criticizing them so much. So both ways. Like, you know, I find people don't even read my Instagram captions. So they're putting so much emphasis on what I look like and not enough on what I'm saying. I'm like, did you even read it? And to come back to that question about comments, you know, I'll have people, just guys, this is what bothers me the most, is just men being like, sexy. I'm like, F off. Like, you didn't read
anything you wrote.
Caption. You know, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here for your pure entertainment. I'm here to empower women and do other things. And I've literally, that's not what I'm here for. And they'll just write, oh, you're so sexy, babe. And they'll send me a DM. And I'm like, would you just go away? This is my biggest problem, because it's as if they seem to think that that's what I'm here for. And it really undermines, I feel, my intelligence and my ability to care and love. And you're just reducing me to one thing. So that's what bothers me the most. They're the comments that get me, I guess, the most. Yeah. And like when it comes to women and stuff, I found that has reduced, I would say. Like a lot of people, I don't think there's a lot of people out there who would criticize like they used to. But, you know, I've always sort of let it roll off my back. But one thing that does bother me, I guess, is being sexualized when I'm not aiming to do that.
100%. And I think in terms of women in particular, most of the time, anytime they are judging someone, it's a direct reflection of what they're most insecure about. And in terms of males, they just need some work to do. Let's just say that.
They got a lot of work to do. And I do find that Australians, they're not perfect, but I feel I don't get a lot of those comments from Australia. I'm getting them from other countries and things like that. So culture is definitely a thing. But I think there's definitely still a clear difference between the men and women and the way that we interact, which is sad. We still got a lot of work to do, but you know, I'll keep fighting.
Yeah, that's it. That's good. All right. Well, let's chat now about what you're doing career-wise. I know we spoke off the mic about going full online, which is amazing. Congratulations. So you were a PT. What else do you have going, and what are you doing now that's all online?
So I've sort of always done some online coaching, but this year I've decided that that's going to be my primary business, and I'm going to give up pretty much everything else. And I got some really good advice: is to just do one thing, do it really well, and you just have one product. And I think throughout the years I've been confused about, you know, trying to be everything to everyone and trying to build a business that way. And I've realized it just doesn't work. So now that I've kind of done some development and I'm like, cool, this is my product, this is what I do, this is what I'm about, it becomes a lot easier to then bring people into your business. And my brand and my coaching is all about being customized and individual. And I think a lot of coaching over the years has been very much like bodybuilding coaching, and that's it. And so I think there's a big market there for just women in general who want to feel better, look better, be happy with themselves, care for themselves more, and put more attention to themselves. Just having that support network and that coach and that person to guide them through. It doesn't just need to be for bodybuilding. And a lot of the feedback I get from people who come into my programs, and I spoke to a girl the other day and I was like, have you had this kind of thing before? She's like, yeah, I had a bodybuilding coach and she told me to eat all of this food and do all these heavy weights, and I feel quite bulky and I don't really want to gain a lot more muscle. I'm already like that. And I said, and when you told this person about it, what did they say? She said that this coach said, well, that's the way it is. I know better than you, and this is the best way forward. Wow. So you just do what I tell you to do. And I'm like, well, that's not really a coach. That's a dictator. So these people are dictating, going like, I know best. And I find it's really egotistical for those coaches. They're kind of like, this is my method and this is what I do. So I'm offering I guess a different take on that. It's like, yeah, have some structure and have some stability and accountability, but let's work with those clients and customize the programs to their body type and, you know, their lifestyle and their family life, which is extremely important, and give them some plans that really work with them, and talk to them, you know, regularly. Let's find out how they're going. Don't just give them a program and tell them to go away and do it. Like, they need encouragement, they need help, and they need guidance. So what I'm working on and the program that I have now really combines all that stuff together.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if I was, say, a client that came to you and was wanting to get one-on-one coaching, what would that look like? What are you offering, and how long do the programs go for and all of that?
So the programs are all 12 weeks. So if you were to come to me and say, hey, Rach, I want to work with you, I'd be like, cool. I've got a series of questions that I need to go through to qualify and make sure that you're a good fit for the program, especially things around self-love and, I guess, you know, your ability to be ready and take direction and feedback, and, I guess, do things out of a place of love. I don't take on anyone who's sort of struggling with disordered eating or anything like that.
Yep.
I think it's unethical, and, you know, I'd probably refer them on. So I've got to make sure they qualify for the online stuff, because, you know, I don't want anyone to be pushed into something that they're not ready to do.
Yeah.
So that's my sort of number one point of call. And then secondly, if they're coming on as a client, I go through a series of questions about their nutrition, their lifestyle, what they like, what they don't like, if they have any allergies or anything like that. We go through quite a comprehensive conversation about that stuff. And their program, their nutritional plan is designed around that. And same with their training. So find out if they've got any injuries, you know, what are the problem areas that they're struggling with, all that kind of stuff. Make sure there's no, you know, imbalances or weaknesses, and I'll design their program around that. And my clients can film their exercise, send them back to me, and I can give them some really good feedback to help improve their movements, because I'm really big on functional movement and, you know, rehabilitation and prehab. So I think that's really important to me. And again, might not be super important to other coaches who are, you know, just pushing for an end result. You know, the process is really important. And they catch up with me every fortnight on a video call, just like what we're doing now. We'll jump on and chat, and have a group, and they jump in the group and share their, you know, their struggles and their wins, and we have this community going. So it's working really well.
That sounds amazing. And the biggest thing that I love about this is that there is a community, and there is that still one-on-one contact with you. And I think it's super accessible. Like, if someone loves your training style, but they don't live in the same area as you, they can do it kind of anywhere in the world, which I think is such a better way to move forward, especially, you know, we're in the digital world right now, but you're still able to make like a personal touch on it, and provide them with, you know, all personalized things for their nutrition and their exercises, but then also one-on-one contact with you. So that's awesome. Well done. It sounds amazing.
Thank you.
No.
Yeah. The other thing that I've noticed recently is the increase of like apps.
Yes.
So like a lot of people are doing these apps, like subscription per month, like come and do this. I'm like, yeah. And again, I get a lot of those people coming to me being like, yeah, I did this app and that was cool, but like I couldn't do a lot of the stuff because I had this injury, or a lot of the food was really complicated and I couldn't find in my local area. So there's a lot of restrictions around that. And you'll find, and I see more and more these like cheap apps popping up. And whilst I think they're a good start and there's nothing wrong with it, there is still a place for that personalized touch, like you were saying, and having that accountability. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. And accountability is one of the biggest ones. I've signed up to those apps before and done like, you know, the online workout ones, and it's good, but the loss of contact, that one-on-one human to human interaction, I think that is such a big step and such a big important factor in the whole thing. So I'll get those details off you at the end of the podcast. So if anyone listening is interested and wants to chat to you further about that. But I've got some questions that people have sent in that I want to ask you. So if you are listening to this on my Instagram at the start of the week, I asked for anyone to send through some questions on the podcast for Rach, and we had a few questions sent through. The first one is tips on feeling less bloated from foods, or just any general advice on bloating.
I got lots of that.
Great.
So first of all, if you have the ability and the time, just work out what doesn't suit you and stop eating it. It's so simple. I mean, sometimes it can be a little bit more complicated what works and what doesn't, because it might be only an element of food versus the entire thing that you just have an intolerance to. So if you can get help from a doctor, that's a good place to start. But if you want to if you know some triggers, leave them out. It can be complicated, but it could also be quite simple. So leave them out. Then there's heaps of supplements and things that you can do in order to help with that bloating. For example, just drinking some apple cider vinegar and water or some lemon and water before you eat can help that digestive process improve so that you're not going to be struggling to digest things. So yeah, one, having some sort of warm water with apple cider vinegar or lemon or something like that is really good. Two, just drinking water, drinking more water throughout the day helps the organs to function and the cells to function. So that's really important. Eating more fruits and vegetables, things that are easier to digest, making sure that your plate is filled up with those things. Because if you find that you get really bloated after eating chips, for example, well, it's pretty obvious that one, they're not great for you. Two, they're obviously bothering you for some reason, and it's not a high quality food. So just switch out those foods. Some supplements that I find really good. My favorite is curcumin. So it's like a natural anti-inflammatory from turmeric.
Yeah.
And since I've been having that, like I don't necessarily get bloating, but I have some other bowel issues at times because I had my gallbladder taken out when I was 18. Yeah, so I find that is probably the best thing for me. It helps to reduce the inflammation. The other thing I think we underestimate is how stress affects our body and how when we're stressed, it slows the function of our digestive system down. So then we go and put more foods over the top, and maybe not good quality foods because we're stressed. We're drinking alcohol and it keeps going. And you're like, why is my body not digesting this? It's because it's trying to cope with the external stress. So if you've got stress going at work, your mental health, relationships, maybe you're exercising too much, maybe you're not exercising enough, all these things can contribute. Maybe you're drinking too much alcohol, or you have, recreational drugs or prescription drugs can also have this effect on the body. So you've got to sort of take all these things into account and, make it as easy on your body as possible, especially if you're going through like a really problematic time. Maybe it's just a period in time. You've got to do your best to change your diet, drink more water, look after yourself, meditate, relax, and that can help. But immediate effects of bloating, it's kind of hard to just like, here's the magic pill, this is going to stop you bloating. Some things can help, like I said, curcumin and drinking some more fluids and stuff like that. There's plenty of other supplements that you can look to and try for yourself. I won't go into too many of them because there's just so many. But asking a doctor or just going to the health food store and saying to the nutritionists and the health professionals there, they can be really helpful to point you in the direction of some good supplements or, fermented foods to include in your diet as well.
Yeah, there were some really, really good tips, especially the stress one, which I talk about. I talk about the stress response a lot and how heavily it can affect our digestion and eating fast as well and all of that. But you gave some amazing tips there. So hopefully that can help someone. And I also agree, if you just go to your natural health food store, I actually went the other day, I had a cold and I very rarely get sick, and it wasn't a bad cold, but I had to record a podcast in like 2 days and I sounded like this. And I was like, how do I clear this fast? And she gave me these herbal stuff and I was so good to go. So they're super helpful there. Okay.
They know the supplements and they know a lot of ailments. So like they're a really good resource.
Yeah, totally. All right. What are the best foods for weight loss? Which is a funny one to answer, but we'll see.
Okay, I get this question all the time, like, what should I eat to lose weight? And it's like, everything. So the thing is that there's no foods that's going to burn body fat more. They might help you to metabolize differently or use a different system of the body, or, they might oxidize fat faster, for example, but you don't burn body fat any faster by eating any particular type of food. The number one protocol is to eat less. So you need to know your calories and optimize them for your body, for your exercise level, and for what you're trying to achieve. So you need to get your calories right based off, all of those things, your sex, your age, your height, your weight, all of that stuff. That's your number one. Then you can work onto your macronutrients and what's the profile going to look like. You're going to do a higher carb, you're going to do a lower carb, and why is that? What are you basing that off? That's the second best place to go. And then you can move into things like meal timing and frequency and, supplements and stuff like that to try and just get the 1%ers out of the diet and make sure that your body's functioning well. But all of those things relate back to the stress, right? So, supplements and meal frequency and timing can help minimize stress on the body and things like that. And that's where we get the better effect from. So you could eat anything losing weight as long as it sits well with your body and hits your macronutrients and your calories. that's where you lose weight. It's not any particular food is better than the other. I really don't subscribe to that. Obviously, foods that have better content, nutrient-wise, are whole foods, like natural foods, things that you find raw, vegetables, fruits, legumes, beans, nuts, all that kind of stuff, as well as lean proteins and, sweet potato, that's all good. And it's okay to have some other things. You're not going to not lose weight just because you have a chocolate bar. That's what you've got to remember. So, I eat chocolate and things like that, and ice cream within reason, of course. I'm not binging out on this stuff all the time, but
not depriving.
Just because you eat some doesn't mean all your attempts have lost. So in terms of, best foods, I can't really say that any particular type. I just got to tell you that, you've got to get your calories right first.
Totally. And I think loving yourself into weight loss instead of hating yourself into weight loss is a big one. There's so many people out there who just hate their bodies, so they're slamming themselves at the gym and they're, restricting, really, really controlling their foods and stuff through a place of kind of fear and stress and anger. And that's definitely not going to help, as we spoke about before, in the stress response. But I guess if anyone has any of these questions, they can come straight to you, Rach, and I'm sure you'll be able to help them out on a program or something like that. All right, let's move to the next question. Do you have any specific routine that you live by? This can be like a morning routine, a nightly routine, or just throughout the day.
I think it always changes throughout life because, you might be doing a different job, or you get a dog, or you have a baby, or you get a new boyfriend. All these things change all the time. You need to be ready to adapt. So I wouldn't say that there's any one thing that I live by and have always lived by. I go through phases and I just try and call myself on that shit all the time. Like, is that good for you? Is that what you should be doing? And it can be hard to change, but I try and push myself. So I remember when I got with my boyfriend, we were like, he'd make me a coffee every morning. And I'm like, oh, I love that. It's so awesome. And he still does that for me. But, he's perfect. But I said to him one morning, I was like, I love that you make me a coffee, but can you make me a tea instead? Because I need to drink more water. And, I need to get some water into my system before I just wake up and have a coffee, because I know that that's good for me. And whilst I didn't really want to drink my tea, I love having my coffee first thing. I love how it feels. But I was like, I've just got to do it. So now I have a tea every morning, no matter what. Maybe one day a week I might miss it, but I try and have some water or have a tea directly after my coffee. So that's one routine that I'm in at the moment. Like, trying to get my fluids up and keep drinking, because now that I work from home, it's a little bit more challenging. And I know that I should just have something better quality in my system before I drink coffee. And just getting outdoors almost every day, even if it's raining. I've been going out recently. I just chuck on a good jacket and take the dog out, and things like that. So I'm not sitting inside all day, because it can be it's a bit of a downer, really. So trying to get out, and I would say there are a couple of things. And at the moment, stretching, getting up, I'll try and stretch before I wake my dog up, and stretch sometimes with my boyfriend in the evening, because I've just got to move. So just finding, well, what do I really need right now? What do I need to add into my routine, and try and get it done.
I love that. And I think you're so true. I think our schedule and our routines are always going to change. And also our body is always going to want different things. I used to go for a walk every single morning with the sun, but now the sun gets up so late and I can't do that anymore. So now I'm kind of shifting and figuring out, okay, well, I needed that every morning because that set my day so right, but what can I choose instead? Because it's pitch black when I wake up and leave for work, but I still need that something else. So my routine is shifting. And as you said, it's always going to be changing depending on the weather, or depending on the time of year, or whatever you're doing, on new jobs and on all of that kind of stuff. I like that. All right. I think we've kind of already answered this one, but we'll answer this one anyway. This is the last question. How often do you train, and what type of training do you do?
Again, it always changes depending on what my goal is, and where I'm at. And I feel like now I have a very good direction with my training. I want to be strong again. I've had times in my life that have been really strong and really loved my strength training. And then I go through other periods where I'm like, you know what, I just need to work on some little niggles I've been having, and I'll completely drop off the heavy weights and do lots of higher reps and more rehabilitation based training. So again, it always changes, but at the moment I'm probably training 4 days a week, and I walk every day. And my walking is not like, I need to do cardio because, I want to be lean. I'm like, I'm walking for my mental health and to get me out of the house and enjoy my day. Because again, like I said, if I'm stuck at home all day, it's a bit miserable. So that's part of my happiness. But strength training is pretty strict at the moment. I'm doing 4 days a week, and I'm doing a strength program that I know some guys online that I found have this really awesome strength training program, which I've used before. So I use that now. It's called 531. And yeah, it's awesome. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. And then we'll just see once I finish the program, do I want to cycle it again, or do I need to try and change it up? And so it just depends on where I'm at.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to change it up as well. I think we can get so stuck doing the same thing and hit a plateau. And it's nice to kind of shock your body or give your body different exercises and different movements to do depending on, I guess, your goals, or just to do something different and not get bored.
Yeah. And I think as well, like we get caught up in thinking like I must train 5 days. And if I'm not doing that, then I'm not doing the right things.
Yeah.
Or I used to be in the gym 5 days a week, so I should be doing that now. But like, even if you're a busy mom, or you're, a busy parent, or, something's changed your job or you're going through a tough time, like maybe 3 days is enough, or maybe just going for a walk every morning is enough. You've just got to make it work for you. Don't get too caught up in not feeling like you're not doing enough.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. Back in the day, if I had had more than, 2 days a week off training, I would have felt so guilty, but I just didn't train for 2 weeks because I was sick, and I was like, I just really want to get better. And then I had a bit of a sinus infection. I didn't go to the gym for 2 weeks, and I was like, no, well, like nothing happened to my body. I think people think that if they don't go and train every day, that they're all of a sudden just going to be obese. And I think it's nice to just give yourself a break, especially if you are sick, and just resting and recovering and, having that time to just chill. Nothing bad is going to happen.
Absolutely. You got to listen to your body, right? So you just need times where to relax, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're coming to the end of the podcast, so I want to finish on a couple of questions. First question: who has been your biggest inspiration, either career, health, body, fitness, or just life in general?
Well, I think I don't necessarily have one person in mind, but I definitely read a lot of books. And one person who does come to mind, I wouldn't say this is my ultimate, number one, but Jen Sincero is a really, really awesome author. And she wrote a book called You Are a Badass. And I listened to that book on audio, and it was just awesome. And, people like that who write books, they'll just sometimes say it in a way that just clicks with you. And she clicked for me, and I was like, I get it all now. Like, it's all coming together. So yeah, I think I've got quite a few people like that, authors and people who write or do podcasts or whatever. They put their stuff out there. And I think, people like that really inspire me, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, last question. If you could give your 10-year-old self advice, what would it be?
10-year-old self. Just enjoy life, and don't listen to people about what they say, especially about my body. Don't listen to that crap, and look after yourself and protect yourself from that, because people, I think growing up, I had a couple of nasty times. People did some pretty horrible things to me. As I sort of got past that age and became not so innocent, I guess. So if I think about my 10-year-old self, it would be pre-adolescent, going into that phase, like growing up, getting into high school and things like that. So that'd probably be the biggest thing.
Yeah, I love that. All right. So before we finish the podcast, can you let everyone know where they can find you, Instagram or email or any of those details?
Sure. So if you want to find me on Instagram or Facebook, just search Coach Rach. That should come up. My tag for Instagram is coach.rach. My web address is rachelmuldoon.com. Rachel is spelled Rachael. That's how you can find my information on my programs. You can find all my social media there as well. And email is rachel@rachelmuldoon.com. Again, you can find that on my website. So if you want to get any of my links, you can jump on there, and you should be able to navigate to where you need to go.
Amazing. And I'll share all of that information in the show notes. So if anyone is unsure of the spelling or anything, they can just go to the show notes and find it all there. So thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I really, really appreciate you giving me time out of your busy life, I'm sure. And it was really nice to be chatting with you.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. And hopefully I'll get to chat with you very soon.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would be so grateful if you were able to leave me a review. And please follow me on Facebook and on Instagram at BearXBrave. If you have any questions or you want to contact me at all, please email me at lyh_podcast@outlook.com. I'll talk to you in my next podcast.